Good morning, everybody. My name is Barb Subastian. I'm with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. I'm one of two deputy directors in the Enforcement Division. Thank you for having me here today. I'm going to be talking to you about some alcohol laws and processes. And my cohort here that's helping me out is Rodney Blanchard. I'll let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Barb. Yeah, my name is Rodney Blanchard. I'm with the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. I am a food safety specialist. I work mainly with the 45 local health departments around the state in training them to conduct food service inspections, but also all questions about food law, food code, and licensing. And it's a pleasure to be here with Barb today. It seems appropriate. Anytime you have liquor, you want to have some food around. So,
and vice versa. We're going to go through a quick PowerPoint presentation about some liquor laws and requirements, and then Rodney will take over and he will do a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll allow for some time for question and answer. Sorry, we're getting started a few minutes late today, but we will try to move it along so everybody can get to their next session. So I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm not the techiest person in the world, so forgive me if I have some difficulties here. All right, I'm hoping everybody can see this same screen that I'm seeing. Got a PowerPoint for you from the Liquor Control Commission and the Enforcement Division. Today I'll be talking about a few different things. I apologize to those presentations before. You might see some repetitious information. Haven't had a lot of changes on the laws regarding special licenses requirements. We will talk briefly about COVID, wine auctions and raffles, sampling events, brand promotions, minors and ID checks, intoxicated patrons, other MLCC violations, little information on our website, and some contact information for you. As far as requirements for special licenses, a lot of you probably know these. Have to be a nonprofit entity by legal status or a municipality. License is required for the sale of alcohol. That includes selling tickets if the attendees get alcohol as part of that price. They can be used for public or private events. A private event means it's prearranged, invitation only, not open to the public, no cost or consideration to get in. Consideration can be broadly defined. It means any sort of fee or cover charge, ticket purchase, could even be providing a donation, bringing a can of food to share for a charity, something like that. A few more requirements for special licenses. They're approved for a specific geographic area that's clearly defined by a barrier or some other method. Any packages or deals that you offer have to specify the quantity of alcohol you're providing. You can't have any sort of unlimited deals where, say, $20 all the beer you can drink. Alcohol used for events has to be purchased by your organization from legal sources. Those legal sources are stores that sell beer, wine, and spirits, wholesalers that typically sell beer and wine, winemakers or small winemakers who sell wine products, licensees with a catering permit, that could be a store, a bar, or a beer, wine, spirit manufacturer, or qualified microbrewers, those are beer makers. A few more requirements, and then we'll move on to more exciting things. Please use our most current application form that you'll find on our website. Submit your application at least 10 business days before the event, much longer if you have the luxury to do so, just in case there are any issues or additional approvals that are needed. You'll have plenty of time to address them and get approved. Please note that alcohol cannot be given away to volunteers. It can only be given away to your patrons as allowed as samples. Might want to brush up on the laws on that, and can share information about that soon and shortly. Remember the 3 Ps. Special licensees have to purchase the alcohol for the event. You have to pour it through your volunteers, and you have to keep all the profits from the sale of alcohol. Keep in mind that special licenses were created for nonprofit organizations to raise money through the sale of alcohol. They're not for profit companies to make money. As far as the application process, complete all the forms and have them signed by a representative of the organization and notarized. The local police have to sign part of the form to authorize you to have the event in their municipality. Along with your application, send executed bond. You don't need those any longer. Excuse me, that was supposed to be corrected. Credit card authorization form and a detailed diagram of the proposed premises, including entrances or exits and any intervening roads. If your event is being held at a location that has a permanent liquor license, that licensee will have to submit a request to either put their license in escrow or make it inactive during the event, or they may have to drop space if they're only using a portion of their premises. Complete applications are processed in event date order due to high volume, but get your applications in as early as possible so that you don't have any stressful days before the event waiting to hear if you can do that. You can check the status at 24/7 on our website by clicking on the button, Look Up Pending Special License Applications. I'm sorry I have to bring up COVID. I know everybody's aware of restrictions, but just want to make sure you're aware that during any licensed events with liquor licenses, we will expect you to adhere to these sorts of requirements. You're required to maintain accurate records for the names and phone numbers of patrons who purchase food for consumption on the premise and the date and time of entry for virus tracing purposes. I did just see that the Department of Health and Human Services has clarified that you're not required to verify identity. And if people refuse to give you that information, you don't have to refuse entry. You are required to adhere to reduced capacity of 50% normal capacity. You have to maintain at least 6 feet of space between parties. You have to limit the number of people at a table to 6 people. You have to prohibit gathering in indoor common areas in which people can congregate, dance, or mingle. And you can only sell alcoholic beverages to parties that are seated and separate each other from at least 6 feet. These are current Department of Health and Human Services requirements under an order. As far as wine auctions, wine can be donated for the event, but the organization who's applying for the liquor license will have to submit a list of the names of all the people who are the donors, their names, addresses, and what they donated, along with the application. Special licensees cannot accept donations from licensees. So unfortunately, beer makers, alcohol makers, wholesalers, bars, stores cannot give you the alcohol for the event. You have to buy it. If you wish to sell alcohol by the glass, in addition to having a wine auction, you'll have to get 2 special licenses for your event, one for the auction, one for sale by the glass. As far as raffles, if you're planning to raffle alcohol, you'll need to get lottery commission approval for everything but 50/50s. You have to be nonprofit to qualify. Any unopened alcohol that's awarded as a prize for raffle has to have a value of less than $200. The winner has to be 21 or older and not intoxicated. Alcohol can't be consumed at the location where it's awarded as the prize. It has to be taken to go. We consider wine pools to be events with chance, so you would need a lottery license for those events. We don't license wine pools, be under that license. Please note that some COVID restrictions will apply as far as gatherings and what's going on at them, so you'll be expected to be aware of those restrictions. As far as sampling events, a lot of special licensees want to do those at their events. You can provide 2 free samples to licensees as long as you limit them to 3 ounces for beer, 2 ounces for wine, or ½ ounce for spirits. That's the maximum you can provide per day, is 2 to each customer. You can't provide free samples if they're bigger than that, or if you want to provide more than 2 per customer. You'll have to sell them otherwise. Manufacturers and wholesalers cannot provide staff to pour the alcohol on your behalf. Note that there are some restrictions about sampling and people serving themselves and things like that. You'll have to be aware of any COVID restrictions that apply. As far as brand promotions, I know sometimes events want to promote a particular brand of alcohol or certain products from the area. Manufacturers have to and wholesalers have to be represented by licensed representatives who can give away the alcohol logoed items up to a value of $100 to people who are 21 and older. They can't give away alcohol to your patrons. The logoed items can be given away in conjunction with contests. You cannot have drinking contests, however, so no beer pong. Sorry to ruin your day there. You can't accept any incentive or fee in order to promote a brand from a wholesaler or a manufacturer. That's prohibited by the law. There are allowances for keep the glass specials for spirits. No alcohol can be distilled, brewed, or fermented by anyone at a special licensed location. Everybody wants to see how alcohol is made, but unfortunately that's not legal at one of your events. And again, keep in mind, some COVID restrictions will apply with promotion events and how they're conducted. Just some stuff that I have to say as a liquor control person. During your events, please be aware of minors. You're required to make a diligent inquiry of any people who look under 21 and require some sort of identification. You can require your attendees to remove a mask to check their ID. That is required, and they're required to do so under the laws and under these DHHS orders. Please make sure the ID is valid, not adulterated. It is the same person that's showing you the ID, and that person is at least 21 years old before you make the sale. If you're not sure, ask the patron for additional information. You can ask them their zodiacal sign if you know what the answer is, for their address, the zip code, date of birth, whatever. And if all fails and you need to, you can refuse sale to anyone at any time for any reason. It doesn't say that in the law. That is within your authority. And the patron has the authority to take you to court, but you do have the authority to refuse sale at any time to anyone, any reason. Here's a little bit of information about identification. This is what the IDs look, This is what they look like now. You'll notice that it says under 21 until blah, blah date. That's in red. Any vertical ID is likely to be underage. There are a few exceptions, but almost every single one is going to be underage. The horizontal is the legal age. Intoxicated patrons, real quickly. Just keep in mind, you need to make sure you don't sell to intoxicated people, let them loiter, or even allow them on your premises. You could be sued. There's civil liability and legal liability. Please make sure you remove intoxicated people immediately, but safely. Make sure you don't get them out on the road and make them drive. Call the police if you need to, or a cab, a family member, whatever it takes. Make sure your staff knows the signs of intoxication, monitor consumption, make sure you avoid people getting intoxicated. You can award people and give incentives so that they do the right thing and refuse sales to minors and intoxicated people. You can reward your volunteers who confiscate fake or altered IDs. You can provide a gratuity to a server who cuts off sales and doesn't get a tip. You can offer free pop or appetizers to designated drivers. You can prosecute customers who use fake IDs. Please consider training your staff or using server training programs for your volunteers. You may get better results. You may be more protected legally and civilly. Real quickly, there are other violations you have to watch out for. Manufacturers and wholesalers can't give you items of value, either money, alcohol for your events, rebates, or other valuable items. There are some exceptions. They can allow you to use dispensing and cooling equipment and logoed tents. They can provide pourers if you use them under a catering permit to serve your alcohol. And they can give away certain logoed things that are allowed under the law, but there are limits. Other common violations that you should avoid while serving alcohol: gambling, cooperative advertising, allowing someone to use and benefit from your license, not operating the event yourself, obtaining alcohol from unauthorized sources, giving away alcohol except as samples, not cooperating with the Liquor Commission or the police, and a new one, not complying with DHHS orders and other COVID restrictions. If you need any information from the Liquor Control Commission, please do go to our website. Here's the address for you. There's all kinds of information. You can check your application. You can look up laws and rules, commission schedules, press releases, COVID information, reopening resources relative to COVID, contact information for the Liquor Commission, FAQs, and liquor product information. Please become familiar with it. There are a lot of resources out there that might help you out during your event. If you have any questions, we have 4 district offices for the Enforcement Division: Lansing, Grand Rapids, Southfield, and Escanaba. Our licensing division can be reached at this phone number. We'd be happy to assist you. And if you have any questions, we'll take those after Rodney Blanchard from MDARD conducts his presentation.
Thank you, Barb.
Yes.
So again, my name is Rodney Blanchard. I'm a food safety specialist with the Quality Assurance Division of the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. This is my first time presenting at this conference, so I really appreciate that our department is able to do this. One thing I noticed in looking at the mission statements for your organization is it ends up being very similar to the mission statement for the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. We're a very large department that the division I work for is food safety, but our department is really one of the state departments that's most interested in the economic interests of the people of the state of Michigan. And we work very hard through service partnership and collaboration to make sure that the consuming public in Michigan and the businesses that we regulate are able to work together successfully. So if you're not aware, I just want to give a little background on the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. Michigan's food and agricultural sector in Michigan is just monstrous. It is over $100 billion sector in our economy, with over $3 billion in exports. Really, almost everything you can think of from farm to fork in Michigan, our department has some role in. The dairy business is also under our department, and dairy is absolutely booming in Michigan. We're the 6th largest dairy state in the nation, and we just opened a plant. Actually, a plant just opened here in the last couple of months that will have basically more capacity for cheese and dry milk product production than all the other plants that were already in the state combined. So for a number of years, we've had a huge milk excess here in Michigan. We were actually having to throw away large quantities of milk on a daily basis. So the opening of this newest plant will help to minimize the amount of milk that goes to waste. So I would not be surprised if we don't move up the ladder in terms of the dairy production in the nation. Agricultural tourism is actually on the rise. Culinary tourism is on the rise in Michigan. Sadly, those tourism industries have been very negatively affected by COVID this year, but look at bright things in the future. Also, a lot of nursery and landscape products come out of Michigan. So just to give you a sense of what our department does beyond just food. Michigan grown products, though, when it comes to food, are used nationally. Our eggs and apples are used throughout the country for McDonald's, buns for Wendy's, again, nationally, pickles for Burger King, Subway, wheats for Pop-Tarts. You could make a list that would just go on and on and on about the national products that come out of Michigan. We are, in fact, the second in the nation as a state for agricultural diversity. We have over 300 agricultural commodities that come out of Michigan, which is, like I say, second in the nation. We're first in things like blueberries, cucumbers for pickles, which a lot of people wouldn't know about. Everyone knows about our tart cherry production. But things like asparagus and dried beans and celery were one of the top producers. Apples, alfalfa haylage. I just had to include that because probably not a lot of people know what haylage is. It's round hay silage, basically. And then actually some of those top 10 items you're probably very familiar with are sugar beet production, sweet cherries, things like potatoes, egg, and milk production. So, and that translates perfectly into all that food into a lot of festivals that are held throughout the state of Michigan. So there's actually, and here's just a sampling of some of the festivals that are held in Michigan that specifically promote agricultural and food products. But as we all know, hardly an event or festival is held in the state of Michigan that doesn't have food. So I don't know if anyone has been to most of these festivals, but we really truly have probably one of the most diverse group of festivals of any state in the country. One of the hardest ones for the local health departments to stay on top of from a food safety standpoint is the last bullet that I added to the slide, which is the ethnic and cultural food events, because a lot of times the food that is prepared at those festivals is unique, and food safety can be quite a concern. So just as an overview, again, I'm from the Food and Dairy Division, but you can get a sense that our department is a very large department. So wanted to transition over to food and food safety specifically. How do we ensure food safety in Michigan? We really do that through the training of the food employees in the state of Michigan. Most of that work is done through the local health departments, plan reviews, licensing, inspections, recalls, and the investigation of foodborne illness all falls under the responsibility of those who ensure food safety in Michigan. And I really want to talk about foodborne illness for a brief minute, because really everything we do for food safety is to minimize the effects of foodborne illness. And when you look at the top 5 causes for foodborne illness, which are listed here, those things are all concerns at festivals and events. Food from unsafe sources, holding foods at incorrect temperatures, failing to cool properly, using contaminated equipment, and practicing poor hygiene. Those are the top reasons people get sick in restaurants and at home. But these are things that are just exacerbated in temporary events. So they're of an increased concern at festivals. If you're not aware, food safety in Michigan is insured not just by the Michigan Department of Agriculture, but the FDA has a big role in Michigan. USDA has a big role in Michigan. And for fairs and events, the biggest role is actually held by the local health departments. In Michigan, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development is the lead food safety agency. All the licenses for food and dairy actually have our names on them, but the food service programs are actually delegated to the 45 local health departments in Michigan. So actually it's the local health departments that do the bulk of the work for restaurants and for all the temporary food service. There is a note on this slide showing that, as Barb mentioned, the Department of Health and Human Services is the lead state agency when it comes to human health during outbreaks such as COVID-19 right now. And so the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, there's an executive directive from the Director of Health and Human Services directing our department to assist in the COVID-19 response. And that through delegation goes down to the local health departments as well. So the local health departments are delegated temporary food events around the state, except historically food at the county fairs. So for that one event at each county fairground each year, that was more that 4-H fair. Those have been done for about the last 20 years by our inspectors of the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. But we are transitioning those inspections at county fairs even over to local health departments. So basically for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been slowly transitioning them to the counties that want to do those. It's really in everyone's best interest. Most of the counties have more inspectors in proximity to those fairgrounds. They can have more people out there, more boots on the ground. And obviously, if a foodborne illness occurs in the community from a county fair, it's the local health department that's going to have to investigate that. So it's really in everyone's best interest, where possible, to have the local health departments conduct the inspections of temporaries at the county fairs. As of last year, basically 39 of the county fairs were inspected by local health departments. 52 were still being inspected by our department. But that's really misleading, because the 39 county fairs inspected by local health departments tended to be most of the bigger ones. And so our department is handling a lot of the more rural and smaller ones with not much food service. So for your licensing of food at events, the first place to go to for planning is your local health department. In almost all cases, it's going to be the local health department that's going to be responsible for all the food or most of the food out there. If there's food at an event that is not handled by the local health department, they know how to get a hold of our department, or in rare occasions, perhaps the USDA or FDA, if we have to get them involved. I don't know, but hopefully your organization's ABCs of event planning directs your members to the local health departments. Most food and beverage at events will be licensed in one of 4 ways. There will be some fixed food locations, especially maybe some concession stands in fixed venues, expo centers, that kind of thing. You also may have some food service coming to events and festivals that are actually just considered remote site service from a local restaurant or convenience store, something like that. So coming from a fixed food location. Most of the licensing, though, will either be a temporary food license, and those are good up to 14 days in one location, or they may be a special transitory food unit, or they may be a mobile food unit. There are some food and beverages situations that occur at temporary events that may not need a license. The Michigan food law specifically exempts some things from the need for a license. So if you have vendors out at an event that are selling or giving away just whole uncut fresh fruits and vegetables, they probably do not need a license. Also, if you have small producers of honey or maple syrup at an event, it's quite likely they would not need a license. People may be at an event selling cottage foods, and they would not need a license. Cottage foods in our law in Michigan are non-potentially hazardous foods that are made in the kitchen of that person's primary residence and then sold directly from that person who made them to a consumer. There is labeling requirements, and I showed the slide earlier talking about the 5 things that cause most foodborne illnesses. Food from unsafe sources is one of those 5. And we certainly have issues with people who think they're doing something right under the cottage food law, but in fact are selling things they should not sell. So it's pretty common for local health departments and our MDARD inspectors to find food at events that are being sold by people, and they say, oh, I'm doing this under the cottage food law, but they're actually selling full pork dinners, or they're selling things they should not be selling, things that are potentially hazardous and they should not be selling. So we do, local health departments and our inspectors fairly often have to educate those people and let them know what they can and cannot sell. The other thing that may not need a license, and this is a big one for events throughout the state, is if there is no food preparation and you're using only single service articles and serving only non-potentially hazardous food or beverage, you don't need a license. So that actually covers most beer tents. So you would need a license from Michigan Liquor Control, but you would, if you're just having a big beer tent, you, in most cases, would not need a separate food license for the beer tent. But again, you'll want to check with the local health department because there are some instances where you may need a license, but in most cases you would not. Also, if you have people who are simply selling prepackaged single service frozen desserts, they do not need a license, even though they may be potentially hazardous. And that's because they're just such a self-limiting thing. If they're melted, then no one's going to buy them. And so people aren't going to buy them long before they'll become unsafe. Beyond the licensing of the food that most local health departments will do, they also want to ensure overall public health at your events. So please, again, involve the local health departments. A lot of them have, for the large events, they do a lot of pre-planning. There may be a pre-planning application that your event has to submit to them that would show things like restrooms, hand washing stations, where the potable water is coming from, how you're getting rid of wastewater, how you're disposing of waste. If you're going to have people staying there in temporary campgrounds, how those will be licensed and inspected. So in many cases, the local health departments are going to ask for all that pre-planning for things other than food as well. So again, make sure to involve them. And of course, now, as Barb mentioned, there are additional COVID-19 restrictions that have to be met. So when it comes to, I did want to talk about some basic changes in our licensing during the pandemic. The Michigan food law says that a special transitory food unit, it's basically a food concession that is licensed on an annual basis and can travel anywhere around the state of Michigan. It has to operate to approved standard operating procedures. And then while in operation, they need to request and receive 2 evaluations per licensing year, generally spaced over the span of the operating season. Obviously, this year has been very unique. In a lot of cases, those STFU operators have not been able to operate. So if an STFU does not operate or did not operate during the license year, the local health department does have the discretion to relicense that unit for the next license year without having 2 paid inspections. But if that STFU has operated 2 or more times, they should have requested and received their paid evaluations. The Governor Whitmer's executive orders had extended the expiration of all of the 2019-20 food licenses until November 30th. They normally expire on April 30th. The Supreme Court ruling kind of mucked that up. And by overturning that executive order, it eliminated that extension. Our department is basically honoring that same date for food establishments licensed by us. But if you have an STFU or you're having an event where STFUs are going to be present, you really want to make sure to check with the local health department on their licensing status, because for the most part, any STFUs at this point that do not have a 2020-2021 license that expires at April 30th of 2021, they should not operate again until they obtain that new food license. Oh, I see a typo. Sorry about that. I've included some resources here. Our department has vanity URLs for information on county fairs, on farmers markets, and on licensing guidance that you can go to. The Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association actually has a really nice page on a lot of food safety resources. And the CDC has a really nice web page on food safety at fairs and carnivals. Just for fun, I wanted to mention one other thing that our department has done. The USDA just approved this last week Michigan's Industrial Hemp State Plan. So starting December 1st, 2020, industrial hemp produced in Michigan will comply with the USDA's industrial hemp requirements and be eligible for basically interstate commerce. The 2018 Farm Bill at the federal level established a USDA industrial hemp program. Michigan mirrored that in December 2018. We passed tons of legislation to align our industrial hemp laws with the USDA, and our department's been working with farmers since then to get that up and running. So over a 22-month period, MDARD, our department has now registered or licensed 631 growers and 517 processor handlers to grow, process, and market industrial hemp. So that's just, again, one of the many things our department does. But going forward, I imagine there will be more festivals and events in Michigan around CBD, marijuana. Now, hemp, industrial hemp and marijuana are different, but just thought I'd put this slide in there for some fun. If you have any questions, you can email me or give me a call. I can direct you to the correct resource if I do not have the answer. And now that I'm done with my slide, if you have any questions that you want to put in the chat for Barb or myself, we would be glad to answer those. So I do have one question, Barb. What is a wine pull? I don't know that term.
Well, apparently some events, people will bid on items, but they don't know what they're getting. For example, the wine is covered up by being wrapped or in a sheath or behind a curtain or something or other. And they bid and they may get the best one or they may get the lowest price one, the least rare. Because it has a chance element, we direct people to the Lottery Commission for approval on those events.
Got it. Thank you. Well, Barbara, I just wanted to say thank you for involving our department today in this. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about what our department as well as the local health departments do. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, on that same topic, I know our agencies have been partnering more lately on lots of issues, working on the some of the COVID restrictions and things like that. It's been a great partnership, and it's been great to work with some of your folks. I get the impression some of our people are working out there in the field together as well. some of our field people. So that's all good, and we're happy to share information with your organization as well.
All right. Seeing no other comments, you want to go ahead and end the presentation then?
Sure. Thank you, folks. If you have further questions for me or Rodney, we would provide the contact information to you. Feel free to reach out to us. We're here to assist. And thanks again, Tony. Nice to see you as well. Thank you for attending our session today. We hope that you got some valuable information about food safety and alcohol regulation. And please feel free to visit our websites if you have additional questions or if you need resources. We hope you really enjoy the convention and get lots of great information that will help your events be successful. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Rodney.
No. Again, thank you for attending this session.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.